I've always wanted to do a show with women of different generations, backgrounds, and views. We call it The
View. Hello, everyone. Boys, girlies, and non-binaries of the internet. Welcome to The View History. I am Sarah Kellyson, your host for today, and we're going to talk about all things ABC, The View in the past, and we'll talk some things in the present. So let's get into it. Today, I am drinking ginger ale with a splash of black cherry bourbon. I really recommend it. It's yummy for the tummy. Oh, that just really sets the mood. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so today we are going to discuss underrated View Feuds that we all haven't heard about ever. So we're gonna dive into View history a little bit here, and let's talk about some of these underrated View Feuds. Okay, so the first one that comes to mind that I remember as being underrated that we don't talk about is from August 2014. Whoopi went up against the whole panel because there was this man that beat up this woman because I think the woman, from what I recall from the clip, was hitting the man, and the man was like, I'm gonna have enough. And Whoopi was the only one with a difference of opinion, whereas everyone else was like, no, a man can never beat up a woman. They are not equal in strength. And that's what Sunny SC Cup was guest co-hosting, and Sunny was guest co-hosting at this time. Sherry and Jenny McCarthy. And Sherry and Jenny were not feeling it. They were like, I'm out in a week. I'm not gonna get into this with Whoopi. So they were just sitting back. They knew this segment wasn't going anywhere. But SC Cup and Sunny were, you could tell this is a good example of View co-hosts who you can tell are exiting when they don't care and they just sit back for the rest of the season and they already know they're out. Whereas there are co-hosts like Sunny and SC Cup who are literally trying. There's half of them are trying and half of them don't care at all. And they'll put their 2 cents in, but then they'll be like, I'm gonna sit back. I find that's the case with a lot of these former View co-hosts that are guest co-hosting on the show recently. This season, I found that a lot of them that aren't getting paid there regularly are I'm not going to put as much effort into this. So it shows. But Whoopi and Sunny, especially Whoopi and Sunny, were just it was a full-on screaming match between the two. And it was Whoopi could not handle anyone else's opinion. Okay, in this time period specifically, after Barbara left in season 17, season 18, and 19, I felt Whoopi was so in control of the panel. She was I felt she was controlling every single person's opinion because either I feel some people just didn't have strong enough opinions on things. Jenny McCarthy seemed very unsure of herself, just to be truthful, and some others also. And I felt Whoopi was testing the waters with some of them. Because let's be real, season 17, 18, and 19 had a lot of co-hosts that weren't sure of themselves. They kind of needed to be challenged, in my opinion, and they needed to stand up for themselves. And when they couldn't, that's when, they were gone. So, and I felt in this period you could not get an opinion in without Whoopi talking over you. If there's people now who complain about Whoopi talking over people, I'm you need to go back to this. This was a whole different thing. Season 17, 18, 19. And I know there was a lot of things personally going on with Whoopi in this era in season 17 and 18, where I think she lost a few relatives and everything. And it's quite sad. So this is her way of showing grief. And I feel she did it in a very similar way to Meghan McCain, who was always in a bad mood every day. And I feel Whoopi projected that same energy in season 17 and 18 and brought it to work.
But a woman should learn how to avoid provoking a man's anger. Now, some people are outraged, and let me just point out that the comment that he made is based on what the young lady said she did. Let me just make that clear to y'all. She said, I hit him, and I believe that's what Stephen is pointing. I just want to say,
for a man
hitting
a woman unless his life is in jeopardy.
No, I'm sorry.
He knocked her out.
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm sorry. If you hit somebody, you cannot be sure you are not going to get hit back. No. Oh yes, baby. Listen, if you're a little boy, I'm sorry. If you're a little boy. And you grow up with a sister, and your mother says, no, you can never hit her. And she's like this, and she's hitting you all the time. You say, Mommy. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. If you hit her, no. You have to teach women. You have to teach women. Do not put your hands on anybody. Do not. Let me just finish my point. Because I know I'm going to catch a lot of hell, and I don't care. But you have to teach women. Do not live with this idea that men have the chivalry thing still with them. Right. Don't assume that that's still in place. Right. So don't be surprised if you hit a man and he hits you back. You don't hit it. Listen, I'm sorry. You hit somebody, they hit you back. Okay, don't be surprised.
Yeah, it's a very spicy clip. It's very engaging. I am like, I feel like Sunny, in retrospective, Sunny and Essie Cuff should have got the job because they were the ones really giving a different view, and they kept going at it. And I see why Sunny landed the job eventually. Okay, so the next one I wanted to discuss, this is kind of more of like a shade with a guest, because I felt that felt good. I felt like Barbara Walters would shade some of her guests, just even with like the openings. And this one happened, I posted on my Twitter a few months ago, and people were like, so they kind of knew what was happening. But it was Barbara Walters versus Rebe Jackson, in a way where Barbara was being really shady in the opening. Like, she pretty much called Rebe Jackson a nobody compared to the other people in her family, because Rebe Jackson is the eldest in the Jackson family, but she wasn't part of the Jackson 5. She was only in their variety show, and she did some solo music later on, which Barbara starts with, some of you may not know who that is. And I'm like, wow, that's way to start, way to like set the mood, Barbs, like. And she kept shading her left and right, and like, people know of Centipede by Rebe Jackson. Like, there's a video of RuPaul in a car in 1984 listening to Centipede by Rebe Jackson. So that song has impact in some way. It's not the biggest song in the world, but Rebe Jackson does have a hit. Let's be real here. What hits does Latoya Jackson have? And she seems to be everywhere all the time. But like, what hits does she have? Like, really? And no shade to her, but like, if we're gonna talk real here, let's talk real in terms of impact and airplay. And what sold. So, and Latoya has been a guest on that show many times, and she never got that level of shade at all. Like, they were praising her music in one of her guest co-host appearances. She guest co-hosted and would fill in for Elizabeth a few times when she was on maternity leave. That's when they brought in Latoya as a guest co-host. But Rebe Jackson, this was her first and only time at The View, and Barbara Walters like shaded her so much. And then she also went on, so you've been the backbone of the family. And she's like so open with it. And it's like, Barbara's like, Rebe's like, not really. And then Barbara's like, well, it's a good thing, actually. And I'm like, oh my God, the level of like shade and like audacity of Barbara just keep going at it with her. And Rebe didn't hug any of them. Like she just walked in and walked right to her chair. Like she didn't hug any of them. So, and she never came back. So that says a lot.
Well, most of you may not know who that is. Who is Rebe Jackson? Michael Jackson's family is so well known to most of us, except for his elder sister, Rebe, whom we just saw in her 1984 music video. She's been married for over 40 years, she's got 3 kids, and she has stayed pretty much under the radar. But now, with so many rumors out there about the family, we're going to get the real story. And we're very happy to welcome to The View, Rebe Jackson. You here. That people get to know this sister, this particular sister, because you've been kind of the backbone of the family for many years, we hear.
Well, I guess you could say that in a lot of ways, maybe. Yes.
You know, it's a nice thing to say.
So we like love a backbone. So Rebe Jackson, we appreciate you. But Barbara was like really shady with a lot of her like the way she introduced people, and they haven't aged like the best, truthfully, because in today's age, back then I see why a lot of that was a normal and news standard to give it like for what people are really saying. But as like a guest on The View, I'd be so like discouraged if they said I was like I'm a nobody pretty much. And I feel bad for Rebe Jackson, but Rebe Jackson, we love the backbones. We always need the backbone to keep us together. So we appreciate that. Okay, the next View feud that not many of you may have heard of is Rosie Perez versus Raven Simone and Michelle Collins from March 2015. And in this clip, it's actually about a celebrity, I forget the name of the celebrity, but a specific celebrity made fun of Michelle Obama and compared her to Planet of the Apes, which is very parallel to Roseanne and the Valerie Jarrett thing, which is very strange to me. That only happened like 3 years later in 2018. But it's so, for some of the things, let's get into it, because some of the things Raven said on this show back then has not aged well at all. And I don't really want to get into like the racial element and implications of it, because it is kind of like, it's a very uncomfortable conversation, and we're here with The View history, but I want to talk about the context of it, because Raven, and I feel Michelle Collins, we're trying to excuse this guy in some way, and we're trying to like oversee it, whereas like Rosie Perez was full on calling it out racism. And this was the only time where I remember Rosie Perez shouting over the ventilation. That's the only time I could hear her, like when she was really giving it. So she does have a spicy moment, and that's why I dug up this gem, is to show some people. But yeah, it was a very interesting clip, interesting time for The View. And Raven and Michelle were guest co-hosts at the time, and Rosie Perez was obviously a permanent.
Univision personality, TV personality, Rodner Figueroa was fired last week for saying, quote, Michelle Obama looks like she's part of the cast of Planet of the Apes. He has since apologized, but he said he was actually referring to the male makeup artist featured on the show who used the makeup to transform himself into Michelle.
I mean, that is terrifying. I'm just going to say that is, first of all, isn't that considered blackface? I mean, it's like a Spanish guy getting put into black makeup. That alone is like...
No, drag-ish.
I don't know, there's a lot happening there.
Because a lot of Latin people recognize the fact that we do have African blood in us. A lot of them do not want to recognize that fact. And that's where this stems from. There is a secret in the Latin community, specifically the Caribbean, South American, Central American, Latin community, that they are very racist. They never want to be in the same group as black people. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. And he did say he did say Michelle Obama looks like a cast member of the Planet of the Apes. And
was he saying it racist like? Because he said that he voted for her later, and I don't think he was saying it racist.
Oh, please, that's like saying I'm not a racist, but I have black friends.
Let me say something.
That is racist.
I don't know where Raven is coming from. My thing is, I think he's a gay guy. He is a comedian, you know, according to him, and he is biracial himself. And I have a feeling he said it without even thinking. I think he should be fired for stupidity, because if you're too stupid to realize why that's offensive to begin with, then like you shouldn't be on TV.
No, I'm sorry, you do not disrespect.
That's just like
I totally disrespect. I am the Latin person here on this table, and I would like to tell you that it was racist. Period.
It was racist.
And the thing is, this is a problem in the Latin community that we do not talk about, that we do not address, and it is real, and it was revealed by this man's statement. And you do not disrespect the first lady of our country.
You want to finish?
And like in this clip, Rosie Perez was giving the former co-host the Queen of Arizona type of energy. Like, let's just be real. This was like Queen of Arizona before Queen of Arizona came to The View. And I wonder if she was inspired by this clip by Rosie Perez and just saw it and was like, I'm going to use it. Because I don't remember any other View co-host prior saying, I'm the Latin person on this panel, or I am the conservative on this panel. You know, like nobody else. But I don't think Barbara Walters would have allowed that type of dialogue. So truthfully, because it sounds very like, I don't know. It sounds like it comes off as entitled in a way. And it comes off as like you're the only person that represents this community. You know what I mean? Because each community is so diverse in a sense where it has its own voices, where you can't possibly represent everyone. But for The View, you have to try to represent it for the most part, but sometimes that doesn't always hit the note and hit the box in a way. The next one I want to get into is something that is a lost clip that has disappeared from the internet since December 2007. This is the clip. It's a View feud that people back then would have known, and it's during OG View times where it was Sarah Jones, Star Jones, and Star Jones, Elizabeth Hasselbeck versus Sandra Bernhard, Sandy B. And it's from June 17, 2006. And this was a clip that people would go on about. And this was before, you have to remember this was before the Rosie versus Elizabeth split screen. But in this moment, people were like predicting, even on the blog that's here, they were predicting that the tension was rising. At this point, it was already known that Rosie O'Donnell was going to be the moderator of The View when Meredith left. And the person in this blog pretty much goes on, without Meredith, the show turns into a circus. And with Rosie O'Donnell, the tension will even go higher. But they loved the tension between Star Elizabeth and Sandra Bernhard. And Sandra Bernhard was not on The View ever again after this appearance. And I wish we could, like, if someone has this clip on their file somewhere, you know, in the graveyard of a laptop or something, or on VHS tape, please upload it, because I would love to see this, and I think many people, it's very interesting. What's also interesting about this is that Elizabeth, it's weird that Star Jones and Elizabeth would team up a lot, and that it was described in The Ladies Who Punch that they were close. And it's interesting because Star Jones would be the most liberal was like the Democrat of the panel. And then Elizabeth was the conservative, obviously. And it was interesting because I read Point of View by Elizabeth Hasselbeck, and she didn't mention Star's name at all in this book. Despite her first few years of The View, she was close with Star than anyone else, as described in Ladies Who Punch. So I do have a theory on why she didn't mention Star. I do have a theory, but I think those two women, you know, are both like alpha dogs in a way, and they're both outsiders, because during this time, Star was Bridezilla, and after the Bridezilla thing, she becomes more of an outsider to the people within the show, with Meredith and Joy and even Barbara. So Elizabeth and Star could relate to one another in that sense. And so that I see why they were really close. And it's kind of weird that Elizabeth didn't mention her in the book, I find. I think the reason is being because maybe Elizabeth does regret a lot. There's a lot of drama that was done during that time, and she did it out of respect of Star, not to mention her, because that was during her Bridezilla era. And I feel that's what happened. But I do think those women, I see Star commenting on Elizabeth's page the other day, and they took pictures together at the reunion, and Elizabeth has said nice things about Star and vice versa in the past. So, you know, it was just interesting that she wasn't mentioned in Elizabeth's book at all. The last View feud I want to bring up is Star Jones versus Meredith Vieira from 2006. So this is the one that I remember digging up, and it was kind of in the back of my mind. And it was something that I remember reading online about from 2006, by the way. And this was near the end of Star's era. And this is when she knew she was fired and she felt backstabbed by everyone at this point. And there was apparently a day where Star snapped at the entire table except Elizabeth. But she mainly got into it with Meredith Vieira because Meredith Vieira said she was pro-life for animals. And Star Jones did not like that at all. And she really gave it to her. And then when Joy and Barbara tried to defend Meredith, she was just not having it with anyone. It was just like she snapped at everyone on that table. And there was also like this article that I read that I'm just going to read to you about from 2000. This was from March 2006 after Star Jones had breast surgery. And it says, let's just bring it. It appears that an all-out catfight is brewing on The View. Star Jones has been in LA recovering from breast surgery, and on Monday, she called in and told the girls to discount rumors that she almost died during surgery, turning the conversation to her favorite subject herself. And like the media was not nice to Star in this era. Like the way the media treated Meghan McCain the past couple of years is the way Star Jones was treated in this era specifically because of the Bridezilla thing. And after that, the media felt Star Jones was extremely self-absorbed. And people that work, don't even get me started with people who work there who have said things about her. But Joy kind of just like interrupts her and is like, okay, Star, that's enough about you. Bye. And I'm like, she cut her off. And then like Joy takes it a step further and is like, keep your tits perky. And I'm just like, oh my God. The heat, the level. Star then went back at her and she's like, I'm glad to see you haven't changed. Even today, you are still a bitch. And she said that right on the phone call. And I'm like, oh my God. And then here's where it's like, it says Jones then thanked Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Barbara Walters for sending flowers. And she basically threw it in their face that Joy and Meredith didn't send her anything. And she acted like really petty about that pretty much. And that's what I got from it. So, like, it made headlines as, like, Star Jones calls Joy Behar the B word. And you could tell at this point that those two just despised each other. Like, when Joy said her and Star began not getting along at the end, you definitely see that here. And there's also this other article from the New York Post where it said in December of 2005 that Star and Joy got into it again over religion, where Star expresses her personal relationship with God. And when I read that, I was like, okay, I see why her and Elizabeth got along in a sense. And Joy said, why is it everyone's business to know that? So yeah, they both really despised each other at this point and during season 9. And like season 9 is like, I felt like is like the preview to what's come in season 10. And it was like the direction of where the show was going, and you could just feel like it was getting more heated and it was becoming less of the show it used to be, and it's transforming into something completely different, especially with a different moderator. Like, we're digging up fossils at this point, like View history fossils right here that people probably never knew about. Joy and Star did eventually make up when she came back to the show in 2012. And that's where the relationship began getting mended with her and The View. And then Star came back a few more times after as like guest co-host, and she promoted her stuff. And I actually really enjoyed her this past season, like season 25, because what I've noticed, especially when she was there in February, is that she was willing to listen to others. And she said her point, but she would also be willing to listen to others' points of view as well, is what I noticed, especially when Sarah was giving a completely different perspective and giving like this very independent viewpoint. And Star was like, that's actually very interesting, Sarah. And like, she was very like, wow, I never thought of it like that before, like type of thing. And so I think Star still has the diva in her. I do think there's still that elements of her to her, but I don't think it's to the degree of what it was in this era. I think she learned when she burns bridges with with Barbara Walters. I think she learned from it, and she sees her flaws now. And I think that's a big part of just growing up and getting older, is that you learn your mistakes. You see the flaws in your dialogue, and it's honestly the most rewarding thing when you can see that in yourself. And I've personally have had bad dialogue in the past. I'm guilty of that. I've not always come out the best with it, but you know, I try to do better, and I love when I see the mistakes I've made, and like understanding the mistakes I made is the most important thing. I think it's the most rewarding and most helpful thing to me personally. So I think Star, you know, she burned down, but she got back up. And I think there's a true redemption factor in that story. And I think she is the OG lawyer. She is the lawyer of The View. And she paved the path for so many to come. Okay, View, we need this on Disney Plus. Like, we absolutely need season 1 to 9 at the very least on Disney Plus. And there's no excuse, because Joan Rivers has her daytime show, her underrated daytime show. By the way, I really love her daytime show from 1990 to 1993 on platforms. So like, we need this for The View. Like, it is possible. So the next thing I want to get into is we're going to talk about what's going on with that conservatorship seat. I really had too much bourbon, I feel like, but maybe not enough yet. But I want to, today we are going, so what's going on with it right now is they had 3 people since we last talked back. They had Alyssa Farah, Stephanie Grisham, and Tara Setmayer. Out of those 3, objectively speaking, I felt like Tara Setmayer stepped it up. I felt she was actually giving an opposing view. I felt when Trump's not in her mouth, she can actually do this job a lot better. And she's very, like, she can very much hold her own. And I have learned that. And it's nice to see her more what she really thinks versus, like, we don't need to hear her opinions on Trump and that administration, because that administration's over now. Unless it comes back, then that's a whole different story. But I feel like she did a lot better, and I feel she's when she doesn't have certain people on the tip of her tongue, she thrives a lot better. Stephanie Grisham also did a lot better the second time as well. I felt she could give a pushback. I like that she was interjecting more and she was giving us a little mess. She's giving us a little spice. We really loved it. And she was there with her big eyes and she really just came through in some ways. And I love, what I like about Stephanie Grisham is that she was she was listening to the fans. She was listening to the fans. And I know something about that people know, but a lot of people were giving her feedback, and basically she took everyone into consideration and used it on the show. And I think that helped her a lot. And I think, honestly, that is the smartest thing she could have done, is taken advice from the fans, because we know how the seat works, and she thrived with that, and she thrives with taking other people's advice. I know I do feel like she could be the best thing, but she could also be the worst thing for The View, because if she ever got fired, if she's spilling the entire pot about Trump, then imagine if she got fired from The View. I bet she would spill the entire pot about The View. So I'd be careful with that, but that's just my perspective on it. And plus she's the type of person that I feel gives into peer pressure easily, because she has like a couple DUIs. I'm pretty sure there's more than one DUI, but before Trump, she got a couple DUIs. And I think usually DUIs happen when you're peer pressured into drinking and then leaving the party afterwards. And I feel that's what happened to her. And I feel she stayed into the Trump administration for 4 years because she was peer pressured. And that's just my truthful, honest opinion about her. She's the type of person that you could go to the beauty salon with, and you could do your nails, you could get some clear coat, and you could just sit back and just, listen to her speak for hours about any subject, and she'll just tell you every single thing. Like everything. Like, I feel she is that type of person, that an NDA doesn't mean anything to her, like, whatsoever. Like, she's like, I signed an NDA, but I haven't seen it in a while, so it's not a thing. And that's how she's like. Alyssa Farah. Let's get into the tea about that. Let's really talk about that for a second. I need to take a sip of bourbon just to talk about her. Okay, so here's the thing about Alyssa Farah. I liked her the first 2 times she was there, but I didn't know her fully is the thing. I liked her as a person. I admired that she went into the lion's den, pretty much, as some people described it as, knowing that she worked for a certain administration, and she went there and said, I'm not going to deny my resume. This is my resume. I'm not going to live in denial about it. And she did that. And I admire her for having the courage and the gall to just stand there and take it from all these women. Like, she took it in. She took it in and owned it those first 2 days back in October. When she came back, I was like, okay, we can see what she was given, like 4 days or something, or 3 days. And she was showing what she knows and stuff, and like giving some perspective. And I think that was all right as well. The third time she was there last month, I felt, truthfully, that she was trying to get approval from everyone around the table. And to me, that is a problematic thing, because it felt like she was waiting to get approval from someone like Sunny or something to agree with her or something. And she was trying to justify and validate everyone's opinion on the panel as if they're going to wait for her. See, she was trying to give courtesy, but they weren't giving it, because we don't have the time for that, because this is The View, and you got to give your perspective truthfully for what it is. And you can't just validate everyone's opinion around the table and not express your own, because you need to say what's on your chest, and you need to say it loudly and proudly. And that is her issue. Here's the thing. She has the ingredients of doing part of this job. Like, she has the polarizing resume. She is a conservative. Like, I do think she is conservative in the sense of she's a classy traditionalist, and she believes in pro-life and all that sort of stuff. And she's probably pro-gun as well. But with that being said, she did not execute well because she doesn't have a polarizing personality, and that's just her. She is too nice for this job. They walk over her very easily. And that is not what the show needs. And that is not what is going to get clicks. They need someone in that position that can say their view and be like, I'm sorry, ladies, but this is what it is. And Alyssa Farah is not that. And I'm just going to be truthful. She was just really wooden, I found, just in like general. And I was like, where's the personality? Where's the character? Where's the character arc? We love a dynamic, and it doesn't seem like there's much there. And when like Joy called her Pinocchio pretty much, she was trying to go along with it, but then she was like, you could tell she had like a lot of insecurities. And I mean, she took it, but I don't think she took it well, and she couldn't make a joke afterwards. And I know a lot of people like to make fun of Paula Ferris, but at least Paula, at the very least, she was a bland co-host to begin with, but she developed herself by making her a horny Christian. She went to a comedy club with Joy, and she would go with the punches. Same applies to Abby. Abby would always go with the punches as well. And she would laugh. But like, this girl didn't seem to take it well, just truthfully. She pretended to take it well, but she just didn't. And when I say like wooden, I don't mean like rigid necessarily. I mean like wooden as she's very surface level in a lot of ways. She's not showing us enough of her real personality. I feel she's also, it feels like she's kind of like robotic in the sense where she's just reading a bunch of talking points as if this is like the news or something, which the news, it's usually scripted, whereas this is an unscripted show. And so anything can happen, and you need to make anything can happen. And again, like, she's wooden, not rigid. Megan was rigid, but she wasn't wooden. She had a polarizing personality, and that's why she was able to work this job. And the other day, there was an article that came out that said that she was just she basically admitted saying she was just playing a role of what they wanted her to do and what talking points they wanted her to bring to the table. They didn't, and that's why I don't think it was necessarily fair for them to have someone who was like Megan, because they needed someone with that polarizing personality like Megan, but they also needed someone who truly believed in what they were saying. And Megan didn't believe a lot of the things she was saying, and I felt that for a while, especially after season 21. And I feel with Alyssa Farah, she doesn't necessarily understand her perspective fully, or she does, but she's not defending it. And I feel we need someone who can defend it and who is like, sorry, ladies, but this is my perspective. And they can do all the polarizing personality things. Give us some energy, you know? Like, that's what we're asking for here. So I think Alyssa Farah would do amazing on like Fox News or CNN, or she could be in politics. But I think she's, you know, good with a script. Whereas others like Megan can do unscripted TV, and they're better with being unscripted. So, you know, this job isn't for everyone. And I think also if Alyssa was to get this job, I feel if she's trying to redeem her reputation from Trump, this isn't the job for that, because they're going to want you to support those talking points in this position. That's what the conservative seat is about. So if she can't do that, and if she's trying to redeem herself from that, this isn't the place for her. This just isn't, and it's gonna do more damage than good. And I think Meghan herself realized it did more damage to her reputation than good for it, in a sense, because there was an interview where she said that she's used to getting hated on. She doesn't care to have this liked personality or this liked. She prefers being a hate figure over a like public figure. And I think that came from The View specifically, from her time there. And that's just my perspective and what I've noticed. And like, you can't go on like Twitter and like advocate for pro-life movements and stuff and like give us all this like spiciness and calling out certain Democrats and then coming on the show and not showing any of that at all. I find it very double-sided and very flip-floppy. And I think if you're gonna be on the show, you need to bring your perspective for what it is. You can't just like you can't just say one thing and pretend to agree with everyone, but then you don't actually believe that, because that doesn't come off as very genuine, in my opinion. And people will see through that. Viewers will recognize that. Like, we have you on social media, girl. We do. And I feel we've done like a million weeks of Alyssa Farah since then. And I'm just like, no, like, let's not. I feel we need to stop. And I feel they need someone who can hold their ground, which the only people that I can think of that can do that is Lindsey Granger and Michelle Tafoya, truthfully. And I think Lauren Wright, well, we're about to rank the co-hosts, so I'm going to tell you who I think is an A-lister, B-lister, C-lister. So I want to give a shout out to Buzzkill Bayer, because Buzzkill Bayer is like my favorite Twitter. She love that we like the box shaken up by Buzzkill Bayer. It's probably my favorite View fan Twitter ever. They used to be Meghan the fan, the stand, and now they're Buzzkill Bayer. Okay, I need to okay. So here we are. This is our ranking. So it goes, this is for my girls, A-lister, B-lister, C-lister, and I never thought about it, whoopee. So we're gonna rank all these girls. These are all the girls that were thriving. Well, not necessarily thriving, but we'll see which one thrived. So let's get into it. So the first one we have up is Lauren Wright. To me, she is an absolute A-lister, absolutely. She is probably the closest thing to Meghan we've ever gotten. The closest thing to Meghan or Elizabeth in that sort of realm. In terms of giving an opposing view, she was able to do that the second day she was there. And I wish they would invite her back. Like, I wish, we love Miss Princeton. Like, Miss Princeton knew what she was doing. And she was like, but I don't think they will, because she didn't really have chemistry with them. Okay, so Michelle Tafoya is the next one. I added, I subtracted, I divided, I double checked multiple times. I did my spell check. I know this is correct. I just know this is correct. This is the correct one for This Is For My Girls. We all know it. Anna Navarro. Okay, I don't know where to put her. Okay, honestly, like, I was kind of thinking, like, why is she even on this list? Because she already has a contract with the show, and there's a whole thing with her contract. She's supposed to be there like half the week or 2 days a week, and that's her contract with the show currently. And so I don't think she's really auditioning for this position. So I'm just going to put her at a C, but she's already there. So I don't see the necessarily putting her on this list. Condoleezza Rice, she wasn't really auditioning, but she was an A-lister. Like, she gave an opposing view of any sort. Ebony K. Williams, she wasn't for this position. So I like Ebony, but okay, these are people I'm just gonna put. I don't know where I'm gonna put some of these people, but like, she's gonna be I never thought about it Whoopi for now. Morgan Ortegas. Okay, so a lot of people liked her. I found her. I felt she didn't talk the 2 days, and I know everyone's basing it off of that one clip that was like 10 seconds. But truthfully, I felt she was like reading off a card. Like, it felt like she was just giving the guest a question. And I felt the guest was being kind of a jackass to her, just personally. I felt it was more on the guest's fault in my opinion, just because I felt he was being more rude to her than she was to him. And yeah, I felt like I don't know, like I think she was good for news, but I don't think she's better with scripted television, but she's not the best with unscripted television. And that's why she didn't say anything those 2 days, really. Amanda Carpenter. Okay, she had like some personality to her, I will say. Like, she was very out there, I have to say. She was very out there in terms of like saying, she like interjected a lot, I will say. She like interjected after everything. Like, it didn't matter what it was. She's like, oh, I agree with that too, Whoopi. Or, oh, I see your point, Sarah. I'm like, what is this? I felt like she took a shot and then just went on these 2 days, because I was like, what is this? But I'm putting her in C because I'm not really sure. She didn't really give much of an opposing view, but there's potential there. But I'm like, what is this? Tara Setmayer. Yeah, I'll put her in A. I think I'll put her in A because I think she stepped up her last time she was on. So she's an A-lister for now. So Gretchen Carlson. Okay, let's just be real about Gretchen Carlson. She wasn't there to audition. She came in saying she was auditioning, but she was there just to promote her shit. Let's just be real. Because she was just there to promote that bill and that stuff that she was promoting back then. And it was just really, that's all it was. She wasn't actually putting effort. Plus, I think she's someone that's better for scripted television rather than unscripted television. iCarly. Carly Fiorina. So I love me some iCarly. So she didn't give much of an opposing view, truthfully. But actually, no, she did. She did give an opposing view, but she did agree with them afterwards. But what I liked about her is that she had personality, and it was funny. Like, she was funny, I have to say. But I'm just going to put her in B for now. I think she belongs there for now. But I have a soft spot for an older woman. But I will say, she has gone up against The View back in 2015, if we're going to use View history here. She went up against them all on the panel before. And that's why Joy wasn't there. I don't think she'll get the job because I think Joy has... there's some stuff with her and Joy. But I liked her as a person. Like, I think I liked her personality. Cindy McCain. I don't think she was even auditioning, truthfully. Like, okay, she clearly wasn't. She was just there to fill in. But there wasn't much there. I was kind of just bored. It felt like it felt like the days when they have Deborah Robertson. It felt like Cindy McCain reminds me of that. She's that type of guest where they just fill in when needed. So she wasn't auditioning, so I'll just put her there. Stephanie Grisham. You know, girl, we're gonna put you, I'm gonna put her in B for now. I think that there's some work that needs to be done with her, but I do think there's potential there, of course. And so I do think she's a B-lister, but I do like her as a person. Jane Coaston. Yeah. Yeah. Underrated, libertarian, and librarian. We love it. Love it. I think she's underrated. This girl in red, this girl has a long name. I don't even remember her, truthfully. If there's anything I'm missing here about this girl, can someone let me know? Because I don't know who this is. I'm pretty sure I watched everyone's, but I actually don't remember who. I'm drawing a blank right now, truthfully. Caitlyn Jenner. See, Caitlyn Jenner is one of those people that I think is good with a script. Like Raven Simone, better with a script than being unscripted. That's why Caitlyn Jenner's on Fox News. I don't know if I would put her as a C or just never thought about a Whoopi. Well, I never really thought about it, so because I just kind of knew she wasn't auditioning. Lindsay Granger. We just know this is correct. We just know it. We're living with it. I know this is the right answer. I just know it. I love it. We're here for it. Give her 3 or 4 more days. Like, please. Like, she is amazing. Like, she is phenomenal. Like, really good. Mia Love. I don't want to see her again. I don't want to see her again, pretty much. Because I felt, okay, so a lot of the people in Utah messaged me and said that she's the type of person that I've heard that she will say certain things to get certain places and she'll switch her tone a lot. And I just didn't feel her. I wish I could put her higher, but I know she got a second audition, but she really wasn't giving anything. She really wasn't. And you know what? It was funny. The first day she was there, she was wearing Star Jones's exit outfit, like that pink suit. That was giving Star Jones exit. So if you're wearing an exit outfit for your intro, you're already exited. Like that's just what's really happening. Mary Catherine Ham, Mary Kay. Okay, so I have to say her resume is impressive. Because she's working for The Federalist, Meghan McCain's husband's publishing site. And she's also works for CNN. Like the diversity that resume has, the power that has, the intelligence that has, the clearance that has, the profile that has. Like it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But I'm gonna put her. I feel the same way I feel about Amanda Carpenter. I felt, because I felt she was pregnant at the time. I felt she was really slow. She gave an opposing view. That's what she did. She did give it. She tried to give it. But I felt it was a little slow. And I kind of was like, let's pick up the pace to where the rest of the table is. But she was also 9 months pregnant, but I'm considering moving her higher if she comes back not pregnant. And she also didn't have chemistry. Like truthfully, she just didn't have chemistry with these women. There was no connection whatsoever. So I'm just gonna put her there. Alyssa Farah, I was almost gonna say Alyssa Farah. People make that joke and I'm like, I read too much Twitter, so. But Alyssa Farah Griffin, she's gonna go into C-lister for now because I don't know what she's about, truthfully. Yeah, I just don't know, and I'm like, wooden personality again. And she needs to get some personality. She needs to show us who she is and not be afraid to, because the fact she couldn't really take Joey's joke that well pretty much eliminates her, in my opinion. And you need to at least be able to take it. Okay, SC Cup's going last place because there's a whole... I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, but we need to talk on another episode of The View History because there's a conspiracy theory behind this. And I am... Like, we really need to, like, take some time to really dive into The View on that one, because there is a conspiracy theory behind her audition that I could see as being true. And I was kind of I wasn't. It kind of brings some perspective on why she auditioned the way she auditioned. Jed Bila, Miss Jedediah Bila. Okay, so her last, I was more of a Paula Farah's person over a Jedediah Bila person, truthfully, because I kind of laughed at like the horny Christian thing. And Jed, I felt Paula was better at saying this is my opinion, but she wouldn't necessarily change it. She wouldn't get crazy or shouting or anything, but she wouldn't change her opinion. Whereas Jedediah, I felt, changed her opinion whenever, especially when Whoopi would interject, she would just change it. But her last time on The View, she really just gave it all she could. And I think it showed that she could do this job. She really could if she really puts her mind to it. But I don't think that's ever happening, but I'll just put her at B for now. But this is my list. There are 2 contenders that I think are absolutely correct. Absolutely. And then there's the 3 A-listers, so you can't really go wrong with that. I would like to see more of these people, though. B-listers, they're good. I just want to see some improvement, and I want to see more of it, pretty much. C-listers, I'm not too sure about, but there's work to be done there. I think. And these people, I'm just like, I don't know why you were there. I just don't know. And some of these people I don't think were auditioning at all. And that's my view on this. So, that was fun. I really loved it. Thank you to Buzzkill Bayard for shaking the box as always. I really appreciate that. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is Michelle Collins, because she's spilling quite a lot on her podcast called Midnight Snack. And she went into it recently about how there was going to be in May a View reunion, like a full-on reunion, like Barbara on the round table, like Jesus on the round table, but Barbara on the round table. And it was going to be a whole thing. I don't think I know Barbara Walters would not show up for this. I absolutely 100% know this for a fact. So do not expect Barbara to appear on season 25 at all. But I do think a reunion in May is doable for a lot of people. It doesn't have to be every single co-host, in my opinion, but it can be the people who really, want to celebrate the show's 25th anniversary and wants to celebrate their time on The View. And I think this is a really wonderful opportunity for that. And it's tragic and crazy that they didn't go with it. And I'm like, why? It's so good. But Michelle Collins has a lot to say. Take a listen.
The secret, which maybe I'm breaking news, but I literally have nothing to lose and I don't care anymore, is, The View, a show which I was a host on. Whether the people who work there want to believe it or not, or acknowledge this or not, I was a host on The View. And by the way, I have to say a couple things because I'm actually pissed, and I'm going to tell you why. I have never talked shit about that show. I got fired in a very ugly way from that show, by the way, which is their move. That's what they do. They fire people. It's something that clearly is going to be traumatic for anybody, right? And I kind of knew it was coming. I was never really treated correctly there by the, head producers, like the big wigs in charge, who are not the people who hired me, for the record, clearly. But they just could not wait to fire me. They went out of their way to make it. And I'm not going to get into the details because then I'll have no one will buy my book. The famous book that I've been writing, but I've been really, professional, I think. And most people get fired from that show and run to Entertainment Tonight. They run to Inside Edition to talk shit and spill the goss. And believe me, I have gossip, but I was working with ABC doing The Bachelor stuff that summer. So I couldn't shit all over Disney at the time. They did the 25th anniversary. They're celebrating 25 years of the show this season. Yeah. And they actually reached out to me, and I haven't talked to anybody there seriously in years, right? Certainly have not been back to the studios, anything like that. I call it PTSD. Like, that's what I had from that show. But they emailed me before the season started to be like, hey, we're putting together this like a fun intro with all the hosts. Do you want to film something for the intro? And because I actually am a professional person, I thought, well, that's nice that they emailed me because I haven't heard from anyone in such a long time. Of course I'll film something. I'm not stupid. I'm also like, I like where my life is at the moment. So I've moved past it, and sure, of course.
Yeah.
So I filmed, I was in Paris at the time. By the way, they shrunk me down in the, and I actually, please, like in the opening, I think that they thought I wasn't going to do it. Like, I have to believe that they were like, she'll never send it in. And I was like, oh, I will send it in, actually.
Yeah.
And they literally put me, I was like 4 pixels of your HD TV. Believe it or not, listener of this podcast, I have fans. And I have people who watched me on that show who liked me on it. Whether, again, the people who really want to believe it or not. And by the way, half of them got fired themselves because of some bullshit that they started. We won't go there right now because, again, I have to sell a book one day. All right. In the meantime, and then I thought, well, maybe because they're bringing all the hosts back for podcasts. I mean, they're like inventing new mediums as reasons to bring hosts back. They're like, oh, we got
shows for kids. They have to
they're literally wheeling in. I think every single host is still living, amazingly. Now that it's right, I was going to say they're wheeling in the corpse of somebody, not even me. And you know, the funny thing is like, do I even want to? I mean, they never even have me out for a goodbye. But I want to be. I want to be clear. I was on the fucking show.
Yeah. It's not like a million people have been on it.
Dan, I was the 15th host of that show. That's it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's very cool.
That's what I'm saying. And it was like a big deal. It's a cool thing. Forget the shit that the show has been through. And you know, listen, look, did they throw me under the bus during a very horrible time in my life? 100%. I won't get into it now, but they did me no favors. I'll start there. I believe that there were a lot of conspiratorial things around my downfall on that show, which they were thrilled about. I'm just going to say that. They bring every person back. I've heard nothing from them all year. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're just going to go with the fact that like I wasn't on it. Like, come on. So I get an email from a producer who I really liked. One of the, you know, I got along very well with. Seriously, I think almost everybody there. I really mean that.
Yeah.
Like all the, you know, PAs, APs, producers who have been there seriously from the beginning, some of them. I pretty much was friendly with everyone. Some people didn't enjoy me. I think some people were also very allegiant to other people there. And so if that makes sense. So they kind of used that to be like not nice to me, which was like always like, okay, well, also fuck you, but whatever. In the meantime, so I get an email from a producer who I do like, being like, hi, oh my God, how are you? Really sweet. She's like, listen, we're doing a reunion show in May, live at a theater. I won't say which theater, but live at a theater. Would you want to be a part of it? And I thought, well, Kaloo, here it is.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement that I was a host on The View, number 15, baby. And I wrote back. I said, hi, first of all, how are you? Very friendly email. I go, 100% would love to be a part of it. Thank you for including me in it. I appreciate it. This was like a month ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I've been operating under this idea that mid-May, and by the way, that mid-May, I'm going back to New York. This whole situation, you know, I got to go back, blah, blah, blah. So then I hear nothing from them. And I'm like, I swear to God, because I've already been like tricked by them. You know what I mean? So many times. So it's like, I don't have a lot of trust in them. So I'm hoping, like, fingers crossed that they don't somehow, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say lie to me, but just like fuck me over again, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm like waiting to get the travel details. I'm like, well, how much? I mean, it's a month away now. Like, are we going to book this shit or not? I got to know.
Right.
And I got an email this morning that they're not doing the reunion.
Oh, come on.
Which, by the way, obviously has nothing to do with me in particular. Like, clearly, I'm not a psychopath.
Oh, because it's a COVID thing? Or?
I don't know. You know what I think? I don't know. I think they didn't know what it was going to be. I think the idea initially, well, I will laugh if there is actually a reunion that I was just disinvited from, would be actually the best thing to happen to me. I will do a tour of all the late night shows.
Yes.
Please do a reunion and don't invite me. Please. But what bothers me about it is that actually means that they have not included me at all, except for that first credits thing where I was playing game with them. I was playing ball. I said, yes.
Right.
Like, and obviously this show could do more for me than I could do for the show. That goes without saying. I'm not sitting here like, well, I did a favor for them. Of course not. But what I'm saying is that if you want to acknowledge the history of the show, I was, by the way, still to this day, only the second Jewish co-host. Barbara Walters was the first, the creator of the show. So now are we dealing with something maybe anti-Semitic? Because I felt a little bit of that too when I was on that show, if we're going to go there. So I'm asking you, I was treated like fucking shit. I wasn't treated well. I wasn't treated well there. I mean, and by the way, Whoopi always treated me well. I was friendly with Raven, but I'll say like overall, no, I wasn't treated well. And it was, and again, you know, that's what it is. It is what it is. But it was a great learning experience for me. I am grateful to have been a part of that show, is the truth. And I think a lot of hosts would leave and go, yeah, it was great. Like that's how they operate. That's why there are books written about that show, because they go out of their way to psychologically torture the talent on that show. It's what they do. And now they're doing it again. And it's like, you're not even paying me now and you're going to do it again. Like, are we all children here? It's just, it bothers me. I hadn't said anything about the show for years. I mean, my goodness, I was on it in 2015. But it's like, you're going to have a big reunion. Forgetting even on TV, you have a podcast. You can't call me in for a podcast. And by the way, I'm one of the funniest people you've had on that show. Let's be real.
Yeah, you should have been on the podcast.
Come on. Anyway, so rant completed. And I have to tell you, I do feel better. And I'm glad I brought it up.
She was flat out coming for the show because she was like, The View tortures their talent, which in some cases that could be true, but I feel like some people feel that way. Like, I feel Candace and Ray, well, especially in the time when she was doing it, like this was when Ben Sherwood was still around. And you could tell Ben Sherwood, just for perspective, was a producer that Whoopi did not like and did not get along with. And he pretty much wanted to turn The View into a third hour of GMA, which I'm like, that's illegal. Like, we shouldn't be doing GMA past 10 o'clock, really. Like, GMA is good for the early morning. It's not something that's meant for 10 o'clock and over. But I did like what Sarah and Kiki Palmer did. So that was my only exception. But other than that, it's really not acceptable. Ever. And I feel I can see why they didn't like that. And Ben Sherwood, I think, encouraged Paula Ferris, from what I've heard, to be on the show. And he tried to push for her because she was part of GMA. And I think that's why Whoopi and Paula had issues in the beginning, is because they had a good relationship, by the way. It was very misunderstood, I think, by the public, because in her book, she said that Whoopi was Paula Ferris's book called Out. She said that Whoopi was one of the first people to reach out to her when her dad passed away in 2019, I believe, after she was on the show. And she's apparently sent a bunch of like flowers and everything. And I think I think Whoopi didn't trust her in the beginning because this was someone from Ben Sherwood, and Ben Sherwood had an issue with Whoopi and vice versa. So that was not the best relationship from what I got out of it. So that was around the time Michelle Collins was on the show. And I'm pretty sure there's other people at ABC that I'm sure wanted her out. And when I say ABC, I'm not meaning like Brian Teta. I'm not talking about the people that work on The View specifically. I'm talking about the head of ABC News executives. Those people have a lot of shadiness to them. And I'm not going to say who, because I do a whole show called Obscure Nick, where I talk about exposing people in the industry. That belongs on an Obscure Nick episode, but we're going to primarily focus on The View. So Michelle Collins basically said The View tortures their talent, which I think she meant ABC mainly. There was a reunion that was going to happen in May, but didn't. And I'm so salty about this right now because I'm like, The View, make this happen. Like, even if it's like not everyone, it's okay. Like, it's cool to see the people that want to celebrate. Like, I think that's totally okay because I understand, like, nobody's asking for Jenny McCarthy to be there. She also said they were anti-Semitic, and that Michelle Collins seems to only get along with Whoopi, Raven. Michelle Collins is apparently writing a book, but we'll see what's in this book. But I feel there'll be a lot on Joy in that book. I have a funny feeling, because Michelle Collins is like Joy 2.0 pretty much on this show. And that's why it doesn't work when you have two people who are of the same perspective on that show, just like how Megan and Elizabeth didn't work, or Megan and Abby, because eventually they're going to clash. And that's just what it is. So they need to have distinct voices of each different person in terms of personality and style. I feel like when they're like of the same characteristics, they may not be the same in personality. I felt like Joy was more daytime palatable, whereas Michelle Collins was more of like a late night comedy club type of host. Her humor fit more that sense. She was very, I would say, cutthroat, unhinged, and a lot of that belongs in late night and like comedy club type of persona. That's the better setting for that type of comedy. And she also lost some advertisers too. So she's the only host to do that, really, with the whole nursing scandal, which was from 2015. So there was a reason why there were many people after her to fire her. Although regardless, that was 7 years ago. Actually, is it more like 8 years? Can't remember, but it was a long time ago. And I'm like, we're in 2022 now. I feel we need to move on. And I feel whoever wants to come for a reunion should be allowed to. And I think they're missing a good opportunity, because I think some people that have made mistakes in the past are willing to redeem themselves in the future and willing to show that they can redeem themselves. And I think you need to give that person the chance when they are willing to extend an olive branch in a way. And I think there are some hosts that recognize their faults after they were on the show. And you know, I think there's moments where that's redeemable. Like, I mean, like Elizabeth Hasselbeck didn't have the best. After she was fired, she was bitter about it too, but she came back to the show in 2019, and I feel her feelings changed on it. And I think that's what some of them need to do. And I think this is another situation. If they don't want it, you know, I don't think the show wants to have all this baggage. I think they don't want as much baggage as what's out there. I think they are known for a toxic environment for a reason. And I think if they want to change that, if ABC truly wants to change that, then you have to acknowledge that head on. And they aren't with certain co-hosts, and you can tell they're tipping around co-hosts like Michelle Collins, and they're not really acknowledging it. And I think the smartest thing that happened in Barbara's era was when they invited all the co-hosts back, at least before that big reunion. But I think a lot of them got closure through that, such as Debbie Metnopoulos, Star Jones, were able to get closure with the show. And, you know, I do feel bad for Michelle Collins in a way, because I think she was put in an unfair position that was meant to fail, truthfully. Because if Joy was coming back anyways, then again, it's about the personality clashing. There's two of the same type of poison, and it's one of them is going to poison each other pretty much. And that's what happens in these situations. Again, when Megan and Elizabeth did that one day of guest hosting, we saw tensions rise. And that's why you can't really have two of the same personality on this panel. You need to have different, distinct voices that have a different thing to offer, like a comedian, a lawyer, a reality star, or like a reality star that may be conservative. If you have like two people coming from the same background, it doesn't really work. Same with like Megan and Abby. They're both similar backgrounds. One was more independent, one was more conservative, but they still clash by the end of it. And that doesn't work. That just doesn't for this show. And it's with Joy and Michelle, you could tell that they were not feeling each other. I mean, that time when Joy got in trouble with Carly Fiorina, she's like, I'm defending myself. And she cut Michelle Collins right off there. But that's just what it is. But anyways, what do you guys think about this? Like, let me know, message me and everything and let me know. Anyways, this has been the View history. I'm going to try to do more soon, but hopefully maybe 2 a month. But I really enjoyed venting with you guys and thriving and everything. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.